to discuss the ongoing dilemma surrounding the Vikings as they get set to report to training camp. The veterans are supposed to show up on Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday. Quarterbacks and rookies and select players actually were supposed to arrive and started COVID-19 testing last Thursday. And Dex, let's get right to, I guess it's the biggest question right now outside of the COVID discussion surrounding the Vikings and reporting on Tuesday. And that is the curious case of one running back, Dalvin Cook. I'm going to review for you what I know, and then you've got some things that you can fill me in on, and then let's try and figure out where this is going. Okay, so Zimmer on Saturday, Mike did a conference call talking mostly about his new three-year contract that he had signed last week that's going to take him through, what, 21, 22, 23. During the course of that Zoom call, I asked him, is Dalvin Cook going to show up for training camp? And he said yes. Now, Cook's representative had said back in early June to Schefter that until Dalvin got a new contract, he was not showing up for virtual workouts. Oh, no, not that. Or he would not show up to training camp until he got a new contract going into the last year, the fourth and final year of his rookie contract. All right. So I followed my question to Mike up by saying, who told you that? You know, because sometimes it can be an agent, right? Sometimes it can be somebody else told you that. And Mike said expressly, Dalvin told me that. He's showing up on Tuesday, which made perfect sense, because if Dalvin Cook does not show up on Tuesday, he forfeits an accrued season, which is a huge deal because that means after 2020, he would become a restricted free agent, which would make him very cheap and reasonable, as opposed to a guy who hits the open market and either gets the franchise tag from the Vikings, which is a pretty good payday, or he gets to shop his services. Now, you fill me in on what Zim has said since then, because Saturday night, we should point out that Dalvin's agent reached out to Adam Schefter and in a statement never said that Dalvin wouldn't show up on Tuesday for the start of camp, but did say Dalvin never told Mike Zimmer he was going to show up on Tuesday. Declan Goff, you take it from here.
It is a classic he said, she said kind of a situation, I guess, we're in here, Judd Zulgad. And you know, it started with what? Schefter reporting, you know, what he said, and then obviously Tom Pelissero also kind of rebuttaling the same thing. But then I was listening, wasn't on yet. I've been invited on NFL Live yet, but I know I will be very soon.
It's coming, don't worry.
And but someone on this video, you, not me, voice was on NFL Live this afternoon relaying that question that you asked to Mike Zimmer that you were just talking about a few minutes ago. And from what Diana Rossini and Booger McFarland and Jeff Saturday were saying, Diana reported that obviously Zimmer went on another local radio station here and said that, yeah, he expects them to be here, but like, yeah, have I not talked to him? What I don't get, and what Booger and Diana and basically Jeff Saturday all agreed with on ESPN today, was that if you're his agent, I believe it's Zach Hiller, why wouldn't you just, if you're going to be telling all this to Schefter, why don't you just like start the negotiations with Spielman? Not to say I'm sure there hasn't been dialogue. I'm not implying that he isn't doing his due diligence trying to get his client a new contract. But why are you leaking all this out to Schefter or Pelissero or Rap Sheet when you can just honestly maybe start spearheading the contract negotiations with the direct man himself, Rick Spielman?
Well, I think they're mad because, in fact, it was Courtney Cronin, our friend from ESPN, who reported a few months ago, I believe, that the Vikings had made a contract offer to Dalvin Cook's camp, but not surprisingly, because of the position he plays, had lowballed Dalvin. And so I think that there have been talks, but I think the Cook camp is not hearing what they want, which is, we'll pay you like McCaffrey. They're not going to. Or Zeke. They're not going to. So I think the goal of the agent in this case, right or wrong, was to make it clear that Mike and Dalvin had not talked about what Mike said they had talked about. And to what you're talking about with Pelissero, Tom reported from a source on Saturday night that Dalvin had actually talked to the Vikings running backs coach, who had told Zimmer he will show up. Long story short here. All right. So let's cut through all the BS and all the crap.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook has to show up.
Yes.
He has no choice. You are not nobody in there. If Dalvin Cook's agent is telling him don't show up, Dalvin Cook's agent should be fired, because the Vikings are going to pounce on, and it's in the new CBA that says just black and white. Like there's no gray area here. If he's not there on Tuesday, he forfeits an accrued season. So this is Tuesday. I'm not talking about it's been 5 days and now it's going to cost him. I'm talking about day one, he does not show up. So Dalvin Cook has to, and I appreciate the fact he's not going to be pleased about this, Declan. He has to swallow hard and accept the fact that he has no choice but to show up. Now, here's part two. And here's where, to me, it gets incredibly murky. So there was a tweet last night from former executive Mike Tenenbaum, who used to be GM of the Jets, that said that the word on the street around the league is this, that guys like Dalvin Cook and Kittle of San Francisco are going to show up and then not practice because they're not pleased with their contracts, but they don't want to lose their accrued season, okay? So follow along here. So they're going to show up and then slow play it and not practice. To which my question becomes this. The Vikings aren't dumb. They weren't born yesterday. If Dalvin Cook shows up and look, I know with the COVID running rampant, teams aren't going to practice immediately, so this might take a while. But let's just say the first day of practice that let's say it's 2 weeks from now, put the pads on, get out there. Dalvin Cook's like, oh, no, I'm just here. Good enough. The Vikings are going to look at Dalvin Cook and, again, his agent and say, you're in violation of your contract. Your contract not only stipulates that you show up, but I'm sure it stipulates that you practice. So I got bad news for George Kittle and Dalvin Cook. You agreed to, or your brethren did, agreed to a bad CBA, all right? Which gives you no leverage whatsoever, which you used to have some. So I don't see a way out here. You just signed off on this CBA in what, Dex? March?
Yeah.
It's done. You're done. You're going to play. And then, you know what? If you play and don't get hurt, you're probably going to get a really nice payday if it's possible. And cap-wise, it might be tough. But if it's possible, you might get a nice payday next March. But I don't see the wiggle room for Dalvin Cook to say, I'm just here, good enough. I think the Vikings say immediately, you're in violation of your contract. We're going to start a grievance against you. And that grievance means that, again, you're going to forfeit the accrued season if you don't get out there. That's the way I see it.
And I know Booger McFarland also said the same thing, kind of like what you're hinting at of, well, maybe these guys can, say, whoa, I got a bum shoulder, I have a sore ankle. I can kind of fake and nurse out this injury. Well, if it doesn't medically check out, and it's the same thing, you're in violation of your contract. And also what's interesting, too, is what Zimmer said earlier this afternoon, is that he's going to name Dalvin Cook a captain for this season. Now, I've always been under the belief, and on our hockey show and on a lot of other throws, that captaincy can be a little bit overrated, and especially in football. I mean, does the C really mean that much that, Kai Forbath is going out there with a C on his shirt? I don't think it really matters a whole lot. But he named him a captain because of the things that he represents here and the way he's gone about his business and worked. So he obviously is speaking very highly of Dalvin. I don't think Zimmer's doing anything to put Dalvin down. He's expecting him to show up, though. That's what he's expecting him to do. And honestly, I get it from Dalvin Cook's side. You've been making chump change for what you've been able to do, but also you haven't stayed healthy. So if you're looking for Zeke money, honestly, that ain't happening. Your best case scenario, I think, if you're Dalvin Cook and his agent, is you get something very near to the Derrick Henry contract. That's probably the more realistic goal. And if I was Dalvin's agent, what I would probably do is, can you front load? Can you give me a lot of guaranteed money in years 1 and 2? Is that possible? Can you give me the bulk of the guaranteed money in 1 and 2? So then if the team wants to in year 3 of this new contract, Judd, they could walk away. Dalvin still gets 75% of what he was going to make, but he gets his guaranteed money. I mean, to me, if I'm playing poker and trying to play Ari Gold from Entourage, that's what I'm trying to do. I want the money front loaded. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, and the cap is going down. Like at some point in time too here, decisions about positional value have to be made, right? Because the cap's going down. Like this is not going to be good. And the Vikings, they're already paying Kirk Cousins. They're already paying several players. Dalvin Cook's a valuable player. I think he's fantastic at what he does. But positional value-wise, he doesn't meet the standard. And so, look, it's no one's fault. It's terrible timing. It's terrible timing. COVID-19 sucks. We all agree. But if this is really going to be your stand and you're going to cost yourself the accrued season, or you're going to say I'm not practicing. I don't see how that works. I don't think it's a good move. I think if you're Dalvin Cook, and this is going to stink, but I think if you're Cook, you show up for training camp, you say I can play, you say I can play 16 games, and as difficult as this is, and God forbid you tear up your knee or something again, this has to be the season where you prove it. And if you prove it, someone's going to give you a nice contract. But I think you're exactly right, and we have talked about this since the day it was signed. The Derrick Henry contract is his contract. Like, that's as far as anyone is going to go. David Johnson at 13 mil, to me, too much. McCaffrey, 16 mil per season. I'm not even going to talk about that. Zeke, I think 15 mil, same thing per season. No. And so this back and forth that the Cook camp is attempting right now, I get it. I feel bad for them. It makes no sense. Show up, show that you can play 16 games, knock people's socks off. Dalvin Cook has said previously, right or wrong, that he, in his opinion, is the best running back, probably from a standpoint of rushing, receiving, and protection, right?
Yeah.
In the National Football League. He has said that. So here's the thing. At 1.4 mil, which is grossly underpaid, we all agree. At 1.4 mil, show up in what's going to be a convoluted, tough 2020 and prove those things. Because if you do, someone's going to give you, and it might not be the Vikings, someone's going to give you a very nice contract. But you just aren't in a position to play hardball. And again, your brethren agreed to a collective bargaining agreement, which took the one chip that you truly had, which was, I ain't showing up, too bad, I'll pay the fines. They took that chip, they took it to a toilet, they put it in the toilet, and they hit flush. It's that simple. If you're mad at somebody, be mad at your teammates, be mad at the PA, be mad at the people who represent you. Because if you are Dalvin Cook, those are the people that you should be upset with. The Vikings are only taking advantage of what you allowed them to as a player and as players.
Even looking at that Derrick Henry contract, Judd, which was a 4-year contract for $50 million, but $13.5 million is guaranteed in the first 2 years, and that's the only guaranteed part of the contract and the guaranteed money. Obviously, there's prorated and there's cap numbers and there's other things in there, but basically, Tennessee's going to be paying Derrick Henry for the 2020 and 21 season, and then in 2022, if they want, they could cut him for $6 million and then save $9 million. Now, that is some savings for sure, but if I'm Dalvin Cook, that's what I'm looking at. And if I'm the team, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, all right, Dalvin, you're right. You were a second-round pick. The Players Association agreed with this. Honestly, you have everything kind of working against you in a contract negotiation standpoint. But we get it. When you've been on the field, you have been one of the most dynamic playmakers in the NFL. So we'll give you $50 million. We'll also guarantee 20 of it. Let's call it 20 or 25 of it, and we'll front-load that in the first 2 years. And then if they have to have dead money on the third or fourth year of that contract, and that's what you do. I know it, like when I break it down, Judd, when I put it just like that, I don't understand why it's so hard. I really don't. But I'm playing with other people's money and other people's intentions. But that's what I'd be doing if I was the agent and that was the team. And I said, all right, if we're not going to get in a perfect world, and if there wasn't a salary cap and the Vikings weren't paying Kirk Cousins, then like, all right, Dalvin, we'll give you close to Zeke money. Here's $15 million a season, blah, blah, blah. But that's just not possible. So, all right, how can we meet in the middle? We're going to have to give you 3/4 of what you are looking for in Zeke money. We can give you a close to Derrick Henry contract of $50 million up to, with a guaranteed rate of $20 to $25 million. That's the best we can do. And to be honest, I don't understand why Dalvin Cook and his agent would not sign on the dotted line right there.
And his best chance to get that contract is to show up in practice. If he decides, bleep it, I'm not going to show up for the report day to training camp, Declan, on Tuesday, or decides I'll show up, but when we start to practice, it's going to be tougher. So I really think that the best chance to get the contract, which that you're describing, I think is very fair, is to show up, be a good sport. It might stink, but the more that you drag your feet and the more that you put up obstacles, and why would you, if you're Cook, why would you want to give the Vikings the chance to say, dude, you're now a restricted free agent after this season. We are going to slap that tag on you, and you're going to play for very little next year. Why would you want to give the Vikings, who are already pretty damn smart, Brzezinski's a great cap guy.
Yeah.
Why would would you want to give the Vikings that trump card when if you just show up, go about your business, 3 weeks in, you might get a contract. It might not be the mega deal that you want. I completely get that, but it could be fair. And again, we're in the midst of a pandemic, okay? The pandemic has changed everything, as we know, for everybody, right?
Yes, we do.
So, yeah. So, with that being said, if you're Cook's reps, why would you be playing circa 2018 hardball in 2020?
Yeah.
Like, think this through. This is not hard. Dalvin shows up. He practices. I think the Vikings might give him a very fair contract at that point. But the harder he makes this, or the more he tries to drag his feet, the more that I think they're going to say, okay, then no contract. So yeah, I really sense that given the timing, this should not be that hard. Ordinary times it might be,
right,
but ain't ordinary. Given the timing, this should really be I'll show up, I'll practice. Can we please continue to work towards to what you're saying, Declan? Can we continue to work towards, let's say, a 3-year contract?
Right, and that's what I'd be doing. And if Dalvin Cook doesn't want to abide to that, or if he wants to hold out and say, all right, fine, I'll play this contract on my originally agreed, $1.2 million, that stinks. I'm going to go to free agency, and I'm going to test it out next March. Then I'd say, okay, later. See you later. We have Alexander Mattison, who is a capable back, and also we'll find the next Alexander Mattison in the third round of next round's draft.
And the cap is coming down.
Right.
So one thing is, if Dalvin plays, and let's say he's good, but let's say he plays 12 games, okay?
Okay.
And let's say he plays 12 games and he's good, but he's not great. And he hits the market in March, the payday ain't coming then too. He plays a position that the majority of this league and some very important people that provide analytical perspective to teams now say, don't pay it. And like, it's not, I don't think it's like the AFC's sitting there saying, you know what we still do, Declan? Pay running backs.
Yeah. The Jets aren't gonna go out there and just give out a $50-60 million contract.
Hey, Le'Veon Bell already, and they're sorry they did.
Yeah, exactly.
Final thoughts? Are you good?
I'm good, man. I mean, I want Dalvin to get paid. I really do like Dalvin. I feel like I'm in the more of the camp of pay this guy, but I do know how complicated it is. And I want to see this guy be on the field for the Vikings because without him, even though Alexander Madison's a capable back and probably more better than your average backup running back who can spell Dalvin, Dalvin Cook means so much to this offense, Judd. We saw how when Kirk Cousins tried to take the game over in Week 2 against the Packers this last season, we saw how that did not work. And after they made Dalvin the feature back and let Kirk basically be the complementary piece to Dalvin, I really truly believe that, then you saw Kirk Cousins have the best year of his career. So I think that's the best case scenario for the offense.
Do you think that Dalvin Cook shows up for the start of training camp Tuesday?
I do. I do think he shows up. I think he's there. I know I've seen some other guys say they're already there. Anthony Harris is here. He's eating Juicy Lucy's. I saw on his Twitter, so I know guys.
Yeah, you know what, Anthony? Stay out. I mean, God bless the bars and
right. Well, maybe.
But I hope you got it to go.
Yeah, I hope you got it to go or on the patio somewhere.
Here's the thing. Vikings players, okay? Because I know you watch this show. God bless you. You're young. You're, for the most part, all in good shape. Stay out of the bars and restaurants, though. I mean, go get takeout, spend money left and right.
Yeah.
I'm endorse that fully, but don't go in. Don't hang out. I miss drinking beers in bars, but you know what? It's not a good time.
Not a good time.
Purple Daily, he's Declan Goff. I am Zolgad. I believe that Phil's going to be back on Purple Daily tomorrow, so we will talk to you then. Training camp week is here, at least for now. Talk to you.